Hey, what's up, everybody? True Boxing here. Thank you for coming back to get hit with the truth. So today we are doing the Crawford versus Madrimov breakdown video as Terence Crawford returns to the ring on Saturday, August 3rd in the main event of an Amazon Prime pay-per-view card, a big card, to challenge, to make his 154-pound debut and challenge the undefeated WBA super welterweight champion of the world at 154 pounds, Israel Madrimov, as Madrimov will make the first defense of his title. Now, before we get into that, if you could smash the like button, leave a comment, or subscribe to the channel, I really do appreciate any and all support that I can get as I continue to build my channel here. So if you haven't seen my breakdown videos before, they're probably my biggest ones. Basically, I break down the fight completely. I talk about the fight itself, what it means, what's at stake. Then, in a fight like this, a championship fight, we will start with the champion and then move over to the challenger. So we'll start with Madrimov and then move over to the challenger, Crawford, talk about their last few fights, ask the same stuff, the same questions on both sides. And then at the end, I have a big question and then my prediction on the fight, what I think is going to go down. So this fight now, I mean, it's a big fight. A lot of people aren't giving Madrimov a lot of credit, and I understand. Madrimov's not a big name. He's coming off of his career best win, but he's definitely not a big name. But people aren't respecting that, this is Crawford's debut at 154. And he didn't want to wait around for Fundora, who had to wait until October for the fight. He didn't want to wait around. He wanted to get back into action. And to be honest, even if that wasn't true, which I think some of it is, but the other part of it, do you really want to debut at 154 against a guy who's 6'5" and a half? I think Crawford wants to ease his way into 154. He wants to grab a championship in a fourth different weight class, and Madrimov might be a little bit simpler of an opponent to do that against. So I understand, but Madrimov is not a bad fighter. He's a pretty solid fighter. And again, there's a lot at stake here. The winner, first off, I think the winner, especially if it's Crawford, has a pretty solid chance of a couple things. First off, a Canelo fight. Madrimov might be able to sell himself moving up if he can upset Crawford. At the very least, he'll get a rematch with Crawford, and that's huge. But there's also the prospect of unifying belts. You have the unified champion, Sebastian Fundora, and is fighting Errol Spence in October. So a lot at stake for the winner to attempt to unify belts. And I also think the vacant WBO interim super welterweight title is on the line because Crawford wants to unify belts against the winner of that fight in the fall. So a lot at stake here for the winner, So this is a big fight. It's a huge fight for Crawford because he has so much ahead of him. And it's a huge fight for Madrimov because it's the biggest fight of his career. It's a huge opportunity. So, big time matchup right here at 154 for the title. So now, let's start with the champion, although he's the underdog, the undefeated, Israel Madrimov. Madrimov's coming into this fight. His last three fights date back to July of 2022 when he rematched Michel Soro, the former world title challenger, and fought to a 3-round technical decision in their rematch. A cut was opened up. Their first fight ended controversially as it was a 9th round TKO victory for Madrimov, but it was a way early stoppage, a lot of controversy in that fight. They had to rematch, and it ended in, a cut, ended the fight, technical 3-round draw, and that's the only blemish on Madrimov's resume. He returned, I think in April of 23, got a 10-round decision win over a nobody, and then in March, after an 11-month layoff, he got a monster opportunity against undefeated Magomed Kurbanov for the vacant WBA title, as Charlo had just vacated the belt just a couple weeks prior. They put the title on the line, and you know, he would absolutely break down Magomed Kurbanov. Did Madrimov, totally dominated him. 4th round TKO victory on a big card on the Joshua and Ngannou undercard, and Madrimov punched his ticket for this fight with that victory. That was a huge win on a big card, and it really earned him a lot right here, and it's leading into his biggest, you know, his biggest fight of his career. So Madrimov's coming in hungry. He's the bigger man naturally, but you know, it's funny, you look at the dimensions between these two. He's got a 1/2 inch height advantage, but he's giving up 5.5 inches in reach. So he's definitely hungry, but the size advantage goes to Crawford in terms of, you know, length. But he's got a 7-year age advantage on Crawford. He's 29, Crawford is 36. So that being said, what does Israel Madrimov need to do to win this fight? I think he needs to get in there and land something significant on Crawford early on. He doesn't want to get perfectly timed and caught though, but he needs to make an impression early with Crawford to disrupt Crawford's timing, and also you know, get Crawford to where he can't land those perfectly timed shots, really throw off his rhythm by imposing his naturally bigger frame on Crawford. But that's not going to be easy, we know that. But if he can cut Crawford off and really make a big impression, maybe even hurt Crawford, maybe put him down, it could lead to something successful for Madrimov, you know, early on. So that's what I think he needs to do to try to win this fight, is to really impose his will on Crawford, box his way in. Don't let Crawford take those first 4 or 5 rounds to figure him out. Change it up a little bit. After enforcing his will in the first 2 or 3 rounds, his body size, his frame, maybe start boxing Crawford a little bit. Throw him off. Because Crawford, once he downloads you, it's over. But this is Crawford's 4th different weight class, and he's 36 years old. Madrimov needs to try to take advantage of that. But he also needs to be in great shape, because he has not gone 12 rounds. I don't think he's ever been 12 rounds in his career. So Madrimov really needs to be prepared for this one. Now, can Israel Madrimov win this fight by knockout? I have to say he probably can, because he's the naturally bigger guy. Now, Crawford's never been knocked out, but Crawford has been hurt a few times in his career, and stunned at the lower weight classes. So, do I think Madrimov can win this fight by knockout? Yeah. Can Madrimov win this fight by a decision? It's tough to say. You know, Terence Crawford's so technically sound. I have to lean towards the no, that I don't think he can win a decision unless he just absolutely, his size just overwhelms, and the age difference just is overwhelming to Crawford. But I'd have to think that it's not. But we'll see. What is more likely for a Madrimov victory, a knockout or a decision? I have to say a knockout in this one would be more likely, because Crawford, again, piles up points, and he's so good. He's such a great special fighter, technically. So I think more likely a knockout. Now, what does a win mean for Israel Madrimov? It means the world. That would turn his world upside down. He becomes a star right away and punches his ticket towards unification, potentially Canelo. There's only big fights after that. It would be huge. Crawford's a top 3 pound-for-pound fighter. He's coming off of his Hall of Fame making victory to become undisputed champ in a 2nd weight class. This would be huge for Madrimov. What does a loss mean for Israel Madrimov? A loss, depending on how he loses, you know, I don't think a lot of people are expecting him to win. So I think a loss doesn't hurt him, but how he looks in that loss could could affect him moving forward, you know? If he goes out there and just gets wasted like many of Crawford's opponents, he makes a good impression early, but Crawford downloads him, dominates him, stops him. He's just, you know, who knows how he bounces back. Probably just be looked at as a pushover. But if he goes out there and makes a good ass impression, a loss isn't going to hurt him, and it's going to leave a lot of people wanting more from Madrimov in the future. So we'll see. Now we switch it over to the former two-division undisputed champion, the current unified welterweight champion of the world, the undefeated Terence Bud Crawford. Crawford enters this fight coming in. His last 3 fights date back to November of 21, when he got his then career best win, a 10th round TKO victory in a competitive fight over former 2-time welterweight champ Sean Porter, and a really good battle right there. He broke him down, stopped him in the 10th, becoming the only man to ever stop him. He would also retire Porter and would retain his WBO welterweight title. He followed that up, and he returned, I think, off a 13-month layoff in December of 22 after the Errol Spence fight fell apart. He returned to take on David Avanesian, who you just saw against Boots Ennis. He broke down, dominated Avanesian, stopped him impressively in the 6th round to retain his WBO title. And then his last fight was in July of last year, when he battled Errol Spence Jr. for the undisputed welterweight championship of the world. They would unify all 4 belts, and he would completely annihilate Errol Spence, putting him down 3 times in that fight, en route to a 9th round dominating stoppage victory as he embarrassed Errol Spence and became the undisputed champion in a 2nd weight class, the first man to ever do that in the 4-belt era. So Crawford now is looking to make history again and capture a championship in his 4th different weight class against Madrimov. He's got a lot going for him. He's hungry. He's got the Canelo fight on his radar. He's got unifying belts at 154 on his radar. And I really think Crawford is highly focused on Madrimov because he knows what he has to do, and it's another weight class. I think he's very hungry, and I think he's very ready for this fight with Madrimov. What does Crawford need to do to win this fight? Well, we mentioned it earlier. He's given up 7 years in age, and a half-inch in height, but he has a monster advantage in reach, 5.5 inches. He needs to use that reach, box early. And first half of the fight should be pure boxing. Download this guy. Take an extra round or 2 to figure Madrimov out. You know, I'd say halfway through the fight, if he's boxing, if he's giving up a couple rounds and ahead, or the fight's even, that's when he takes over and starts taking a little bit more risk towards those middle rounds. Crawford knows it comes in great shape. He knows how to be built for the late rounds, and he definitely needs to go out there and box. Be prepared for 12. If you got to go 12, if you got to go the distance, fuck it. Go the distance. But really download this guy, break him down. But the first half of the fight should be a pure boxathon. He should be just out there using that 5.5 inch reach advantage to just carve up Israel Madrimov, but don't take unnecessary risk. This is a new weight class. He's giving up 7 pounds. The power is going to be different. He needs to be wary of that, and he needs to be knowledgeable, and he needs to just box his ass off. Now, can Terence Crawford win this fight by knockout? I think he can, but it's going to be the accumulation of punches, the perfect timing that he has, breaking down his opponent to win this fight by knockout. But I do think he can win this fight by knockout. But it's going to be that prototypical knockout where he breaks down his opponent, you know, and stops him in the late rounds, in my opinion. Can Crawford win a decision? Absolutely. He's the better boxer. He knows how to score points and win rounds. Terence Crawford definitely can win this one by decision. What's more likely, that Crawford wins by knockout or a decision in this one? Tough to say. You know, Madrimov is a bigger dude. I'd say, you know, the safer bet is to say a decision, but I'm not ruling out that he can knock him out. But I think decision's probably the more likely victory for Terence Crawford if he wins this fight. What does a win mean for Terence Crawford? A win means everything. You know, it pushes Crawford forward. It gives him a title in a 4th weight class. It puts him in the mix for unifying belts at 154. You know, potential rematch with Spence if he beats Fundora or Fundora. You know, it sets him up to try to go after undisputed in a 3rd weight class. You know, Crawford wants to make history. He's probably only got about 2 or 3 years left, and I think he wants to cash in and really get some big money-making fights, and a victory over Madrimov is going to do that for him. So I'm really looking forward to it, but a win means a lot. What does a loss mean for Terence Crawford? A loss would really hurt Crawford. It would mean, you know, depending on how he loses, of course, it would mean a rematch if it's a close loss, which would derail the Canelo or unification bouts. And then a bad loss really pushes him back because it probably shows that he doesn't belong at 154, and he probably has to settle for 147, fighting Boots or fighting, which is a tough fight, or facing, you know, guys that people don't really want to care about him fighting, or even guys moving up from 140, which those fights are still big, and Crawford's still a good fighter. They're just not as big. So a loss really hurts Crawford in this fight. So the last 2 things. First, is it better for boxing if Crawford wins this fight, or if Israel Madrimov wins this fight? It's way better for boxing if Crawford wins. He's an established name. He's a special talent, a special kind of fighter, and it keeps people wanting more, seeing him challenge. Is he going to move up in weight to fight, you know, Canelo? How's he going to do against the winner of Fundora Spence or the other guys at 154? It just keeps people wanting more with Terence Crawford. So it's better for boxing if Terence Crawford wins this fight. Israel Madrimov would be a nice story though, but definitely better if Crawford wins. And now finally, who's going to win this fight? Who's going to be the WBA Super Welterweight champion when the main event is over on August 3rd? And I got Terence Crawford winning this fight by a unanimous decision. I just think he's too technically sound, he's too good, he's too smart. But I do believe that Madrimov is a live underdog, could land something big. And given the fact that he's a legitimate super welterweight and Crawford's never fought here, and also the 7-year age difference is significant. But I do believe Crawford's going to take full advantage of that 5.5-inch reach advantage, and I think he is going to outbox and outwork Israel Madrimov in this one and become the new WBA Super Welterweight Champion of the world at 154 pounds. So that's it. That's what I got. That's my Crawford versus Madrimov breakdown and prediction video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, smash the like button, leave a comment, or subscribe to the channel. I appreciate any and all support. This is True Boxing. You've been hit with the truth.